Hey neighbor, today we're talking about corn. We're talking about sweet corn, field corn, but specifically we're going to dig into fertility requirements and how you can be successful growing your own corn, how to feed it to grow that nice big harvest of corn. Welcome to the Row by Row Gardening Show, the best dadgum gardening show on the internet, where we talk about gardening, a little bit of cooking, and growing your own food. Now sit back and enjoy. Well, I just got back off of a trip to Colorado last night, and me and another guy went to a huge onion farm in Colorado and spent a day with them, and man, that was interesting. It's good to get out of your box sometimes, and believe it me, I got out of my box this time.
Is that the first time you've been to Colorado?
It's the first time I've been to Colorado. But I seen an operation that just blew my mind. I'm fascinated by onions, and we're fixing to make some big headways into onion production better and better, helping our people grow onions, because this year I've seen more of our customers be successful growing onions. I think we still got some ways to go, but it just amazes me how we have been able to help a lot of people grow onions, big onions, and they're so proud of them.
In the South.
In the South. And we want to do a better job all the way through. We got a lot of great things coming on onion production, but I was educated over the weekend. The great thing about this is we're always learning, and I've learned a lot, seen things that, I've never seen before. But anyway, it was fun, interesting. As we got there, we told the guy at lunchtime, it was a friend of ours that runs this operation, and the other guy that was with me is a farmer, and he's like I am. He's just intrigued by this kind of stuff. And he said, well, how are you enjoying this? And we said, this is better than Disney World for us. And it was. I mean, that was better than any kind of theme park we could have went to seeing this operation. And he carried us through the whole process, and it was good.
Of them growing onions?
They grow onions different than we do, which is okay, but it was good to see it. They a little different. They have different circumstances than we do, but they still grow onions. So you can grow onions in several different situations. So today we're talking about corn, and corn is a very complex garden crop. A lot of people can grow it if you're an experienced gardener. The biggest problem I see is beginner gardeners try to grow it in the wrong way. It's not one of those easy things like squash to grow. It is highly rewarding to grow corn, but it's not the easiest thing to grow. So we're going to try to help you along today, be more successful growing corn. People that grow corn good, they really, and I'm one of them, it's one of my favorite crops to grow in the garden. As I say, you can walk out there, not quite yet, but when it gets about knee high, you can walk out there one. If you ever grown corn, you'll get what I'm fixing to say. You can walk out there on a warm afternoon when everything's perfect, moisture's right in the ground and everything, and you can stand still, you can hear the corn growing.
Oh,
it's just, you can actually hear it. It grows so fast during that point in time, you can just sit there, you can feel the energy of that corn growing, and that's just a great feeling when it's growing real quick and everything's perfect in there, your nutrient load's good, and your moisture's good. That's good stuff to watch that corn grow.
Growing up, did y'all ever grow corn?
Never.
Never?
Never. So my corn growing ability came from your side of the family, because y'all always grew corn.
Always. That's of one vegetable that we grew. That's the one I remember the most. And it was a family affair when it got ready, because we grew Silver Queen.
Yep.
And when the day it got ready, sometimes Mama jumped the gun.
Yep.
It was a family affair, an all-day affair, and everybody had their jobs, and even my aunts and uncles would come over.
Your Uncle Roy is the one that taught me how to grow corn.
Oh, really? How about that?
Yep.
But yeah.
He grew a big patch of corn. He loved growing corn. He had this little one-row Ford tractor, and man, growing corn was his thing. He loved that. He wasn't probably the best at growing other things, but he could grow some pretty corn. So
have fond memories of that.
Yeah, corn. We started growing corn. We got married. Right after we got married, and when we got a bigger place, we first got married. We didn't have a very big place.
No, and Uncle Roy and my daddy grew it for us.
And then when we got our 10 acres, I started growing our own corn. This has been fun, interesting. It's not something I recommend, and people do it all the time. Growing corn in containers and raised beds, I don't recommend it. Now, if you want to do it, that's fine. There's better use of your space in a raised bed and a container of growing corn than growing corn.
challenge.
It's a challenge, but somebody sent me a picture over the week in a root pouch growing corn. I was like, why? Grow you a squash or some greens or something.
Well, they want corn and they
It's hard to do.
don't have space.
Yeah, but that's nearly impossible. I'm not saying
People
impossible.
do it, yeah.
They do it, but it's tough. It is tough. All right, so let's get into different kinds of corns. And corns can go all over the place. We got field corns and we got sweet corns. On the field corn side, we got, three different? Yeah, well, there's three different general classifications. One of them is dent. Let's show out some Jimmy Red there.
This is some you grew.
This is some I grew, which is one of my, and by the way, we got 8 acres of Jimmy Red this year because we're growing a seed crop there. All right, I'm gonna attempt to show you guys what a dent corn is. Dent corn is a field corn, but it's one that's got that dent in the top of it right there. Now this is the preferred, can I get that out there where everybody can see it? This is the preferred type for me for growing field corn. I like dent corns the best. They're not as hard to grind as some of the others, and
You might have to put it on that paper.
it's just prettier to me. I'm gonna put them right there. Maybe everybody can see that dent in there. Bloody Butcher, Jimmy Red are some examples of dent corn there. All right, and then we've
And
got
our favorite is Jimmy Red, as far as
and Jimmy Red Bloody Butcher
dent corn.
is real.
And that's what we use to, this is some cornmeal I keep ground up in the fridge.
Yeah, we keep our Jimmy Red in a pillowcase in the freezer, and we can just take it out and grind it as we want it. All right, here is the most popular flint corn that I notice out there for the home gardeners, and that is glass gem. See how much smaller it is than the dent is? Now it does not have that indentation in the top. It's more rounded on the top there. And glass gem is multicolored there, and a lot of people love glass gem. I'm not a huge fan
Now, is that
of
a
it.
popcorn?
No, that's a field corn.
It's a field corn?
Yeah, glass gem is. And that right there is, it makes really good pictures. I guess one thing, hard. One thing you'll know about your, what did I miss up here?
So what would you grind that up?
Your flint corn. This is flint. Okay, I see that. This is flints. Yeah, you can grind it. Yeah, it grinds fine, but it's hard. Man, it's twice as hard as what that is, right? It's just harder to grind, but it's pretty. But those flints right there, a lot of people love them, but it's a lot smaller kernel than the dents are. Dents is Greg's favorite here. And then we have popcorn. I'm not going to show y'all what popcorn looks like because y'all all know what popcorn looks like. But this is a lot smaller. And a lot of people love to grow popcorn in the garden. I've never grown a lot of it. I've grown some of it before. You remember right after we got married, I could grow a huge field of popcorn, strawberry popcorn.
I remember.
We had it all in the house and everything, trying to store it. But that's your three different types: dent, flint, and popcorn of your field corns out there now. So that's where you have it on that right there. Another one that I'm going to kind of put out here, and this is another one of my favorite field corns, is Hickory King.
Well, that's a lot bigger than
A lot bigger kernel, and that's why I tell people when they start doing the cedars, you know, it's hard for me to tell you one seed plate with the cedar because they look at the difference there in those three different ones. Even those Jimmy Red and that right there is a lot bigger than that Hickory King. Hickory King makes a huge ear. I love it. Those are my two favorite out there. And then we got a new one this year, this Argentina Orange Creole. Now this is a flint corn. I was gonna grow this year, but I hadn't yet. Let's see if I can put a little bit out here. Now it's a good bit bigger.
pretty.
It's bigger, it's orange, it's beautiful. I would love to have some of that to grind.
Oh, yeah.
But see how much bigger that is than the glass gem? But it's still a flint type corn. So, all different kinds there, but the three main categories of that. We use this to grind, make our cornmeal, our corn flour, grits, and all that is made out of these field corns here. Field corns are more forgiving to grow because, especially the heirloom varieties, don't take as much fertility, and they're more drought resistant than our sweet corns. So,
You dry them out.
dry them out. You know, you don't have this close window you got to harvest and everything. So if you're a big gardener or you want a homestead, you really want to be self-sufficient on growing your own food, you need to incorporate field corns into your crop rotation, into your garden plan. So you have, also makes good livestock food. I got a grinder.
Chicken food.
Chicken feed. I got a grinder that I grind a lot of our corn and feed it to our chickens. So
Feed it to the worms.
feed it to the worms right there. All right. So folks, that's your field corns. Let's move into sweet corns because it's a different animal. Now the sweet corns, and I didn't bring a pack of them here, but the seed there looks a lot different. They're shrunken. They're like really wrinkled up and smaller. The sweet corns, on the other hand, are a little bit harder to grow. You got a shorter window.
Maggie smells that
Maggie's
corn.
underneath here with her nose sticking out right here.
Yeah. And that's, I grew up, we didn't eat a lot of corn on the cob. We ate cream corn. We didn't have whole kernel. Now I have done some whole kernel canning it. This is actually from 2022. We need to eat this year. I like to make corn salad with that. But the cream corn, I would say, is our favorite.
Now, cream corn is not for a lazy person to put up. This right here is labor intensive, and when we start doing this right here, we have to get into the mindset. We take us a day or 2 days, and we get out there and get it put up. We each have our own jobs that we do.
Early in the morning.
I go out there and I pull it off the stalk pretty much by myself, and I have my wheelbarrow out there. I come back, and most of the time I shuck it for the most part and get it ready. Now, I'm not fond of silk, but I will help with that. But we just at that stage, I'd rather turn it off her, and she does all the cutting off.
You're not
and
very
the
efficient at
I'm
silking
not very
either.
efficient. I'm really good up to that point, but I'll get lost on you after that.
Yeah.
So, and it takes a good day, and we make a mess with it. We have to get all prepared up for it, but it's something we do.
I cover
every year.
everything up with sheets and try to get rid of the flies. The flies can be a problem that time
But
of
there
year.
is a particular way that we like to do it. That we like it, and we like it creamier than a lot of people do. It's more cobby, where they just cut the whole kernel off
Yeah,
right there.
a little on the younger side. And your daddy, he didn't eat a whole lot, especially toward the end there. But his favorite was cream corn. And he loved my cream corn. So every Sunday, that's what I'd fix. And you know, I have not fixed any until today.
Really?
That's the first corn I cooked.
And he passed away in August.
Since he passed away.
Wow. Why?
It's just kind of sad
I'm dropping everywhere.
because
He did love it.
he enjoyed it so much, and it was such
I
a.
mean, you just see him light up when he walked in. He seen the cream corn on the table.
It was just such an honor that somebody, loved something you did so much. So, like okra, you associate your mom with okra. I associate cream corn with your daddy.
Yeah, he did love it.
He loved it.
And we love it. It's good. My favorite meal that you fix is cube steak and gravy. Cream corn. You having a moment here?
Yeah, a little moment.
That is my favorite meal that you fix. Is the cream corn and cube steak and gravy and biscuits. Your biscuits. So,
Yeah.
all right. So the sweet corn's harder to grow.
What's your favorite?
Oh man, that's a tough one. There, it's like asking me which one of my grandchildren is my favorite. I love several different ones, and this is just a Greg thing here. I love Honey Select, which is a yellow one, which actually is I got coming out of the ground right now. I look at Ambrosia. Ambrosia's a bicolor. I love Seminole XR, which is a bicolor.
I like that one.
Those are my probably,
Peaches and cream.
It's not my favorite. Peaches and cream's not my favorite. It used
For,
to be.
for a bicolor, I like peaches and cream.
Really? That's interesting. We used to grow Silver Queen all the time, but there
Yeah.
are better corns out there than Silver Queen nowadays. My Silver Queen's real starchy. It doesn't hold very well. So I'm growing Honey Select this year. However, Honey Select is my second crop I'm growing this year because I had a major failure 3 weeks ago. A breeder sent me some sweet corn that I wanted to try called Magnolia. And I had it on the shelf, I had it on my intentions to plant this year. So we went out there and planted the Magnolia sweet corn 3 weeks ago. Now, what I was going to do in the meantime, while I'm planting this Magnolia sweet corn, I'm going to do a separate trial on seed spacing there, because in my mind, I'm thinking it's going to make a difference on 6-inch spacing and 12-inch spacing. So within planting this corn, I also wanted to trial the spacing. To do this, we had to hand plant everything to get the exact spacing. so we didn't use a seeder. So we got out there painstakingly planted each kernel of corn in the exact spacing apart that we wanted it. We also went to the greenhouse, which most people don't do this, but we did. We went to the greenhouse and planted a tray in the greenhouse in case something happened, or we could use a backup plan to have in the greenhouse and see how it grew off comparably to out in the field. The ones in the greenhouse come up 100%. The ones in the garden, I got about a 20% stand. The folks had drip irrigation on this. I had everything. My mind was perfect.
The worst patch of corn you've ever
Worst
tried.
patch of corn I ever had. First thing that goes into your head is, well, I had bad seed, bad germination seed, because I dug down and I found rotted kernels in the soil there, where they had rotted, they had not sprouted and come up. But I go back to my greenhouse and I got 100% germination in between there. It was extremely frustrating, and I've been growing corn for a long time, to have this type of failure. It wasn't. I don't know exactly what happened. I think I may have overwatered in too cool of soils. Where plant depth was about 1.5 inches deep, which is a little deep, but it's okay. The only conclusion I could come to was cool soils and too much moisture, because I did pour the drip to it, trying to get it to pop up a little bit. Had to go back in there and replant it. I just walked out there a few minutes ago, and my new honey slet's coming up good. I used a seeder this time because I didn't have time to go in there and painstakingly put it out. So I just put it out with the seeder. Got a great stand. It's popping through coming up. So sometimes you do have failures, as much as you think you're good at growing things and you don't ever understand, but that's exactly what happened to us.
So after 40 years of growing, I had a major failure.
Now, all of this was untreated. I feel like if that had been treated seed corn, it would have probably been okay, but it wasn't. It was untreated, so it happens. All right, so sweet corn. Sweet corn's harder to grow. You got a close window when you get to harvest it. Normally speaking, takes more water, takes more fertility, at the right time. Now, I just dogged out Silver Queen pretty hard a minute ago, but I will tell you this right here. Silver Queen is easier to grow than some of these newer hybrids. So if you're just starting out, it's no problem to start with some of these peaches and creams and Silver Queens, because they are easier to grow. As you progress and you think you're getting better, you can move up to some of these super sweets. And once you get there, you normally don't go back.
What's the sweetest? The triple?
Augmented and triple sweets, yeah. Honey Select is really sweet.
I don't
It's
like
the
real.
Well, that's what I'm growing this year.
Really?
That's what I'm growing, Honey Select. I grew it about 6 years ago. And it's straight yellow corn, but I'm growing that this year.
To me, the kernels are a little crispy.
Now, if you'll do a taste test with everybody in the office, they'll put that Honey Select over the variety you like, because you're used to that starchy type corn is your preference because you grew up on it. But the younger generation, or people that never eat much, they'll pick that Honey Select every day over that starchy type.
We'll have to do a blind
We'll
corn
do a
taste
blind
test.
corn taste test. So let's get into when to plant corn. You want to plant corn, now you can plant corn in the fall. I've grown decent corn in the fall, but let's stick to spring planting here today. The earlier you can get it in, normally the less problems you have with corn earworm, which is a major pest for our sweet corns. Not so much for our field corns, but for our sweet corns. So the earlier you get it in, the normally better they are. But we battle those cool soils early on. Example of just what happened to me. So normally 2 to 3 weeks after your last frost is a good safe time to plant your corn. We had 40-degree weather this morning, and after this morning we're okay. But corn likes soil temperatures in the 50s to get it to really come up well. And so you kind of have to play with that a little bit. But plant your corn early, get it up and get it growing, but don't plant it too early and rot your seeds in the soil. Another thing too, if you plant it too early, and even if you get a good stand, it's not going to grow off well because the nights are too cool. I got a friend of mine that planted his 15th of February this year and got it up. And I will guarantee you my harvest date won't be much difference than him, because his corn will just come up and turn yellow and sit there. So I'm not a big believer in planting it too early, even though you get your corn up.
That stresses it out.
Stresses it out. Yeah, it'll turn it on when the weather turns cool, but you miss all them days. So what's the point? I don't understand the point. A lot of the old timers around here used to plant around in February. I think middle of March, the end of March, between the middle of March and the 1st of April, ideal time for our area for planting your sweet corn there. You want to get it up and get it off those corn earworms get bad. Some years I have worse trouble with corn earworms than I do other years, but normally speaking, the earlier the better.
When do you start healing it?
I heal mine after it comes up, and so when it comes up about this tall, I start throwing soil to it for two different reasons: to hold that corn in place.
That's Hill.
HIL, but it also helps cover up those weeds that are in further. You can cover those weeds. It helps with your weed control a lot. It helps sturdy up your corn because your corn will grow up and put roots out in that as well. Corn is a monocot. We treat it a little different than we do dicots. Dicots are things that have big leaves on them. Corn is in the grass family, so it's a little different than most of your other vegetable crops that you grow.
And you always recommend drip irrigation.
Yep, but you can do overhead irrigation too. I always use drip irrigation, but overhead irrigation, I've done it a lot of times.
Yeah, it gets hard when it gets really tall.
I used to put me a 55-gallon barrel in the middle of my field, and I take my sprinkler and sit on top so it would go over the top of it. But you can do that by all means. Weed control is normally a lot less with drip irrigation. You use less water, and plus you have the opportunity to shoot your fertilizer through there. On plant corn, 1.5 inches is pretty much the recommendation for field planting. On garden planting, I think about 1 inch is going to be about perfect. And I have planted a little shallower than that, but 1.5 inches is the recommendations for field planting. Our 8 acres of Jimmy Red was planted at 1.5 inches. Got a great stand.
6 to 8 inches apart.
6 to 8 inches apart, and I was going to do a test on that to see, because I always have this idea in my head. I think I'm gonna make bigger kernels and better corn if it's a little bit further apart. I have a tendency to grow mine a little too crowded. For the average home gardener, I think 8 to 12 inches on both of them. Field corn and sweet corn is a good space in there. Now, if you're a good gardener and you got drip irrigation and you do a really good job, yeah, you can crowd that sweet corn in a little tighter, but you got to have everything right to do that.
And you rows
36 inches apart is for us, yep. I do 36-inch rows because my equipment's set up for that, but you can do 30-inch rows. I've done it before.
And plant in blocks.
Plant in blocks because, as you've heard us say, corn is pollinated by the wind, not by insects. And that's the reason I don't like to see people grow them in containers or raised beds. Those silks pollinate one another, and the wind pollinates, so blocks work best in 1 or 2 long rows. All right, so let's get into fertility. Once you get that corn planted, how do you grow you a good crop? Well, first of all, corn likes moisture at particular times. Sweet corn more than your old heirloom. Your old heirloom varieties are way more resistant to a drought than our sweet corns are. So I made some notes here to give you guys some ideas on fertility. Now, there is some variances to this according to what kind of soils you have. So I'm going to read off right here some things that's going to change your fertility on your crops here. As far as cover crops going into a corn crop, the best thing you can have there is a legume, because legumes attract nitrogen and can trap that nitrogen and make it available for your corn.
Like green beans.
Green beans, but green beans we can't grow in the wintertime. But a green beans, a good legume, clovers are the best, or a winter pea are the best cover crop coming into a corn crop, period. Because you're trapping some of that nitrogen, you're doing that nutrient scavenging. That's your best setup coming into a corn crop there. And that makes a difference on how much fertility you need to put out there. So if you're doing that right, you're going to be able to cut down on your fertility too. Another thing is manure applications. Now, we'll put out some pre-plant manure applications. I like to use chicken manure, but I've used horse manure before. But if you're able to put out some manure ahead of your corn crop there, that also makes a big difference on your fertility requirements. And man, you talking about helping something jump. If you get that manure out there 2 or 3 weeks and tilled in that soil, when that corn comes up and it hits that organic manure down in the soil, that nitrogen source, it's going to kick it and it's going to be really helpful.
And one thing, you need to do a soil test.
You do.
Before you.
Yep. Because the ideal pH for corn is 6.0 to 7.0. And that makes a big difference of how those nutrients are available to that plant. I got to get me one more bite of this corn.
And we have a soil test sample kit.
Or you can get it from your local land grant university, either one. Mm-hmm. But just make sure you do it. Another thing too is soil organic matter. Now here in the South, we don't have much soil organic matter. Our friends up north, you'll have twice to 3 times the organic matter in your soil. especially you guys that do a good job with your gardening. So that makes a huge difference. When you have low organic matter, it's going to take more nitrogen and more fertility than these higher organic matters, real healthy soils there.
So if you had a low pH from your soil sample,
You need to bump it up with some lime. Yep. Another thing is soil exchange capacity. We call this CEC. And that means how well your soil transfers the nutrients or make those nutrients available. That's normally tied to organic matter, so they can be close to the same thing. But your CEC, your cation exchange capacity, is how healthy your soil is, move those nutrients available to that plant. That makes a big difference too of how much and how you use fertility. And the last thing is the realistic, how much corn do you want to make? I mean, if you're a gardener, you normally just want to make a good crop. You're not really trying to win any county fairs or anything. It makes a difference to the density that you plant, as I mentioned just a minute ago. That's the reason I think home gardeners should probably plant a little bit further apart than I have done
to
in
get
the
bigger
past.
ears of corn.
And it's more forgiving. So you don't maybe have to fertilize it as much, or I think it's just easier. Plus, if we run into a drought, we're going on vacation, we can't get water to it, it's going to do a little bit better if it's spaced a little further apart.
So if you were growing corn for a family of 4, what size patch?
Oh, sweet corn. I would probably do a 60 by 40 plot somewhere in there, and that's 2,400 square feet. Don't you think that'd be enough good start?
That seems, yeah, for a family of 4. So that's about what you plant, isn't it?
It is.
And there's 2 of us, but we share a lot of ours.
Yep, and give it away.
Yeah, we give it a lot away. Last year I did not preserve any because we had some left over, and I've still got some. I doubt I'd do it this year because I need to start cooking.
But
that
we
in the
love
freezer.
eating it fresh and give it
Fresh
away.
is our favorite, corn on the cob.
All right, so let's get into fertility. We're going to go over some general rules of fertility because that's all I can give you because I don't know your exact situation. I just went over some of those things that could make that difference there as far as how this could vary for you. Nitrogen is the big thing with corn, and the reason is nitrogen is not in our soils normally, with the exception of some of these cover crops. So we assume if we're not using cover crops, we don't have much nitrogen in our soil because it moves, leaches out so much. General recommendation is 265 pounds, and that's units of nitrogen per acre. And I broke that down, and that is 6 units of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet. Phosphorus is a huge thing on corn, and it's not that big of a thing on other crops, but corn loves phosphorus. Almost half of the requirements is required of phosphorus, 115 pounds of phosphorus per acre, and that is 2.5 pounds or units of phosphorus per 1,000 square feet. And then we have potash. Potash is up there with nitrogen at 265 pounds. But the difference in the two is a lot of times we'll have phosphorus already in our soils where we don't have nitrogen there. And although the requirements for the corn is as much potash as it is nitrogen, we don't have to apply as much potash because we have that already in our soils, but we don't have the nitrogen there. But the requirements are pretty much the same. And then 65 pounds of magnesium and 33 pounds of sulfur. We don't need a lot of calcium for our corn like we do our other vegetable crops, but it likes sulfur here. So I'm gonna go over with you and just a glimpse of what you may need per 1,000 square feet. And we're gonna break this down per 1,000 square feet. I did bring a pen with me. And we may do the 60 by 40, okay. We'll throw that out there. 60 by 40 is how many square feet?
Don't.
All right, so
I'm not your math person.
that's 2,400 square feet. So if I had a 2,400 square feet patch of corn, which is 60 by 40, my nitrogen requirements is going to be 6 and 6, which is 12. I'm just going to get this roughly here. It's going to be about 15 units of nitrogen for that plot. Okay, 15 units of nitrogen. Now, the way I want to feed this corn is I want to do it in several different applications. because we don't want to put it all out at one time. Corn needs it at different times there. So I may put it out some at planting time, and I'm gonna hit it again about every 2 weeks, all the way through to get it all.
To add up to this amount.
To add it to this amount here. So I like to use a well-balanced fertilizer, and I'm gonna go with 20-20-20 or 10-10-10, because the 20-20-20 we can inject through our irrigation system, or the 10-10-10 we can side dress. It's a granule. Let's use 10-10-10 because of the math here. So if on 1,000 square feet, because that's where I wrote this out, I'm gonna have to do a little math in my head here. All right. So on that 2,400 square foot plot, which is 60 by 40, I would put out a total of about 8 units of 10-10-10, not at all at one time, but maybe split up in 2 to 3 applications there. And 8 units is going to be 50 pounds is 3 units. So that's going to be about 100, would be 5, 100, let's just say 130 pounds of 10-10-10 over a period of the growing season right there. So we would bust that up in at least probably 3 applications there. Now, we've got to get, that's going to give us enough of our phosphorus and probably enough of our potassium, but we don't really know what our soil load is. But let's just assume we got a good potassium load out there and a decent phosphorus load. This would give us enough right here to get us started and get that phosphorus and that potassium leveled out. Now, let's just take for granted you did a soil sample and your phosphorus was a lot higher than what your potassium was. You can negate this right here by changing it to a 10, 5, 10, or if you needed something else, you could change it to a 5, 10, 15, whatever according to your nutrient load of your soil is. But I'm just giving you general recommendations. So we put 130 pounds of the 10-10-10 broke up in 3.
On this 2,400 square
On
foot.
this 2,400. Now, we got to have nitrogen besides that. So I would alternate between those balanced fertilizations with ammonium sulfate or chilean nitrate. I like ammonium sulfate because we get that sulfur there to it, but you could also use some chilean nitrate, so you can kind of mix this up a little bit. But let's just go with ammonium sulfate. For every 10 pounds of ammonium sulfate, we get 2.1 units of nitrogen. So on this right here, we've just got the 8 units. Let's see, we just got 3 units, so we did 3, that's 8. We need a total units of nitrogen there of 6, 12, and 15 units.
I feel like you need to have your professor hat on, drawing it on the whiteboard.
I know, this right here. So if we do that, we would probably need about 30 pounds of ammonium sulfate, and we would bust that up into 3 or 4 applications. So 30 pounds is going to give me 2.1 times 3 is going to be 6.3 on this plot here, 6.3 units right there. And then we'll get, yeah, it's going to be really close. Now, you may have to move this around a little bit. So 130 pounds of 10-10-10, and then 30 pounds, if I got my math right, y'all check me out here, but 30 pounds of ammonium sulfate busted up in like 3 different applications would be nutrient requirement enough for that. That being said, also hit it with a little micro boost to get your magnesium, some of those other things in there. Micro boost is going to make a big difference. Either put it into your drip or either side dress, mix you up a little bit and put your sprayer, go down through there and side dress with a little bit of micro boost. But that right there, along with your micro boost, will probably give you a good starting point as far as growing corn.
That would be a good thing to put on the website, like our drip tape calculator.
Yep.
Put that on there.
Yep. Now, I didn't do this for drip irrigation. I did this for side dressing for you guys out there. We got the same thing on our website that you can use. We got that on our corn growing guide there. But that just gives you an idea. Corn loves fertility. You're gonna have to move this around a little bit to perfect it to your soils and to your system. That's a good starting point there. Ammonium sulfate, and I guess ideally, I'd like to use ammonium sulfate and chilean nitrate and switch those around.
When do you stop fertilizing?
I stop fertilizing when I put ears on. When I start making ears,
It's not when you start seeing the tassel?
No, I fertilize on when I see tassel. When my ears get about halfway grown, or grown out, that's pretty much stop at that point. Some telltale signs on your corn, if you got yellowing leaves, especially your lower yellowing leaves, you got nitrogen deficiency there. If you get any purple leaves, that is a telltale sign you got a phosphorus deficiency. Corn is really good about showing in your leaf what it needs. And I always say this right here. You know you got enough fertilizer on your corn when you burn the tips of your corn just a little bit, and it's that dark green color. So dark green corn is what we want. We want plenty of moisture. We want to grow it quick because it's a quick growing crop. Give it everything it needs, especially when it starts putting on that ear.
All right, let me ask you just a few questions of problems, and you can spit out the answers real quick, or I can, and you correct me. What if the corn is tall but no ears? Poor pollination?
Oh man, I would say that's a nutrient thing. The ears will still
Too
put
much
on there.
nitrogen?
It could be. It's possible. It would have to be a nutrient imbalance. If you got ears of corn that have not got a lot of kernels in it, you've seen those before like that, and that's poor pollination.
Yeah,
Spacey corn in there, or tip field sometimes is related to that and variety of corn. Some of our corns do better tip field than others. But if you've seen those cobs with about half what was
the
kernels
small
on,
or deformed ears,
that's normally a pollination issue.
Yellowing leaves,
Nitrogen.
leaves curling,
Oh, stress.
or lack of water.
Lack of water. If you see it crinkling up, you need to get some water on it quick. I don't never like to see my sweet corn stress curl. Yeah,
Brown or burned tips? Too much.
too much for but I like to see just a little bit on the end of it.
Corn earworms.
Is a problem. Plant early, as I said earlier, but also if you think you're gonna have a problem, if you notice some damage on your leaves, you can get out there and go over the top with something like Take Out, which is a synthetic pyrethroid. Go over the top there when it starts putting on silt syrup, and do that about once a week, and that can help dramatically with your corn earworm problem if you're noticing a lot of wormholes in your leaves out there.
And this is one we have almost every year, stalks falling over. But it's usually for us due to hurricane.
Yeah, we have that here sometime too. Heal that corn and keep it nice and structured up where it doesn't fall over. It's got a good root system there, and pray. Pray that you don't get a hurricane or a storm. When it's in the silken stage, you got a tassel on there and you got that nice green stalk that you're growing, it is very susceptible to a windstorm growing it down. There's
But
not
usually
a lot you can do about that.
Stand back up.
One time I've had it not stand back up. We had a hurricane come through here and laid it flat on the ground. We lost it. But besides that, it'll stand back up so you can salvage a harvest.
Stunted plants.
Stunted plants stress, fertility most of the time, or moisture problem, but most of the time it's fertility. People don't fertilize enough.
Also cold soil,
Cold soils,
compacted soil.
compacted soils, not good soils. That's the reason we preach cover crops.
And loosen that soil before you plant and amend.
The better, the most compost and manure you put down there before a corn crop, the better off you're gonna be. So there you have it. And then you can grow you some nice what? Green corn. I can make a meal off that.
I think we pretty much have.
Yep.
That was our breakfast.
All right. Garden spotlight of the week.
Of the week is Harrison. I'm gonna butcher this name. Poitevent.
And these
We'll throw
pictures
up on
are
the
not.
screen.
Not
No, the ones you're gonna show is not. But Jared can throw up the real pictures on the screen.
Okay.
So he wanted to show us his onions, garlic, and turnips after the 60 to 70 mile per hour winds on Friday, March 14th. He uncovered his elephant garlic, but every time he tried to uncover the onions, he pulls the stems off. I just thought you would like to see some good old West Texas garden. We live in Stanton, Texas, and not had any rain since early December.
And you can tell. But it looks like soil there.
Yeah.
All right. Garden spotlight. Old goat drawing. Old goat's on a set here somewhere. If you find the old goat, Put in the comments below. Next week we'll do a draw for this week's winner. Last week's winner is Stephen Sachs. Stephen, send us your information, your shipping information to
Growhouse at support.com. I had a brain
support at growhouse.com.
Support at growhouse.com.
And Stephen will get you a pair of these Get Dirty socks out.
That corns went to my brain.
Corns went to, you got corn brain, don't you?
Corn brain, yeah. Housekeeping.
We got plants, we got tomatoes, we got another shipment, we got some more tomatoes.
Right. If you see that tomatoes are out of stock on our website, wait till next week.
No, they're back in now.
Oh, they are?
For next week's ship date.
Oh, okay.
We're not going to start shipping again until next week, but you can order them now for next week's ship date. Still got turmeric. We got a little bit of turmeric, not much. We're sold out of peanuts. Peanuts are gone. Sweet potato slips, you can still order those, but they are in short supply. We cannot sell more than 25 plants to one person because they're in such short supply this year. But you can order up to 25 slips per person, but we're having to limit the big orders because of the cold weather, throw the kink in our plants a little bit, so it's a little bit of an issue.
Yeah. Asparagus crowns.
Asparagus crowns, I think we're sold out for this shipment here, but you can still order your, we got another shipment next month, so you can still order your asparagus. It'll be the last time you get the opportunity to plant asparagus is going to be in May, because that's going to be our last shipment for the year. So a lot of interesting things going on. It's the middle of the garden. You know what I got to do?
What?
Florida weed. I got to start supporting those tomatoes. They are growing like crazy.
I believe they've grown 3 foot.
In 48 hours. Since my trip was 48 hours. I made a quick trip, and I got back and I cannot believe how much these tomatoes have grown. But it's that time. Love this time of the year. Thank you for joining us. Get outside and get your hands dirty too.